communities we live in. So it's not about we growing ourselves or we becoming prosperous, but also take the communities along with us. And so JSW is present across Indian economy with core sectors in steel, which is our primary business. Then we have energy, cement, paints, and infrastructure. So, well, this is focused on the steel operations. So if you look at the steel operations, the right side shows you our locations of the factories which are spread across India. We have the main integrated steel plants at 3 locations, which is Dolvi, Vijayanagar, and Salem. Then we have got some joint control or acquired units, which is on the eastern part of India. And the other parts are the downstream steel processing plants that we have. That's our spread in domestic operations. And on the international front, we have plants in USA and Italy, which we have acquired and trying to ramp up the capacity. So this section will talk about how ESG is embedded into JSW Steel. To begin with, just a snapshot of some of the recognition that we have achieved or we have received with respect to ESG. The first one is we were one of the 15 companies from India and one amongst only 3 steel companies from the emerging markets that have made to the Dow Jones Sustainability Emerging Market Index. Now, if you look at this Dow Jones Sustainability Emerging Market Index, it's a disclosure with respect to ESG. So whatever we have disclosed it to the Dow Jones Sustainability Index, they have been reviewed by the DJSI as per their criteria, and it has been compared with the top 15 or top 20 companies of the world, and then they include these companies into their index. So that's an achievement for us. The second is our social arm, which is JSW Foundation. It's the CSR implementation arm, which is compliant to ISO 26000 framework. So it's one of the only of its kind in India where the first CSR activities have been certified to ISO 26000. World Steel Association is an association where top steel companies become member and engage with this group and have a lot of initiatives and they chalk out the paths for the steel sector globally. And in that, JSW has been recognized by World Steel as sustainability champion for 3 consecutive years. Recently, we raised sustainability linked finance through bonds and it was around USD 500 million raised from sustainability linked bonds, and this commitment was based on one critical criteria, that is carbon reduction and carbon emission reduction, and that's the target we have kept for ourselves, and that's the criteria based on which the finance has been provided. The last one is the CDP leadership level. We achieved A minus as a leadership level, which is ranked higher than the Asian regional average and the global steel industry. So what does this signify? It signifies that we are recognized leader in the emission control, value chain engagement, business strategy, financial planning, risk management processes, risk and opportunity disclosures, and governance. So when we look at all of these frameworks, it is a part of the ESG reporting that we are doing voluntarily to the external world. And then based on our disclosures, we are being rated and based on the data that is being provided, we are being rated, and that's where where we stand. So when we look at steel is the only material which it's a permanent material in the circular economy. That means it can be recycled n number of times. So steel is the material of future as much as the past, having 100% recyclability capability with minimum property loss. And if you look on the left side, it's 1 ton of steel recycled saves on an average 1400 kgs of iron ore, 120 kgs of limestone, and about 740 kgs of coal. So, so if you see, if we have a mechanism where we can get all the steel that we are using in our day-to-day lives, right from household to all the big steel structures globally, and we start recycling those steel and producing new steel from that recycle, we save and we can create less impact on the environment. So coming to the sustainability vision and the governance that we have set up within the organization. Sustainability or ESG, which is part of the sustainability, has different meaning and perception to each individual who reads it. So what we have done is we have defined a sustainability vision for ourselves at JSW. And that is given by our chairman, Mr. Sajjan Jindal. On the left-hand side that we can see is, it is our vision here at JSW that we are able both now and in the future to demonstrably contribute in a socially, ethically, and environmentally responsible way to the development of a society where the needs of all are met, and to do so in a manner that does not compromise the ability of those that come after us to meet the needs of their own future generation. So if you see, there are three key elements into our vision statement. Environmentally responsible manner. We will operate in a responsible, environmentally responsible manner. Ethically, the second is society, where we would try to ensure that the needs of all are met, and in do so in a manner that it does not compromise the ability of those that come after us. And third is the ethical way that we would want to operate. So on the right hand side, if we see, we have a dedicated committee at the board level which monitors the ESG performance of the steel as a group. So board level business responsibility and sustainability committee, which is responsible for setting a direction and kind of guiding the ESG across the. And if you see, the composition of this is, there are three independent directors, and there are three different part of independent and non-independent directors. So Mr. Malay Mukherjee, who is the chairman of the board committee. Then we have Mrs. Punita Kumar Sinha and Mrs. Nirupama Rao, who act as independent non-executive director, and they represent the stakeholders at large. And below, if you see, we have our joint managing director, Mr. Sheshagiri Rao, Dr. Vinod Noval, who is the deputy managing director, and Mr. Jayant Acharya, who is the director. Now, this group, so there is also below this, there is an executive committee which reviews the monthly KPIs with respect to ESG, and they are responsible to feed the board with the performance. And below the executive committee, there are independent working groups for various topics, including climate action, circular economy, which meet on a monthly basis to review how we are progressing on each of our ESG parameters. So when we look at sustainability at JSW, so sustainability at JSW is not just a set of key metrics, processes, or technology interventions that defines our program. It is a tagline and mantra that supports our continued journey towards sustainable excellence. And that's how we have coined the term as at JSW, where A stands for active leadership. What we want is each of our, not only the leadership, but the employees should take leadership decision when it comes to sustainability or ESG in whatever activity they are involved in the operations. But in order for them to achieve this leadership role, they need to be trained and competent. That's where the training and competency becomes a key enabler in our journey towards sustainability. So once that is done, we say that while JSW has ambitious plans to grow, so we would grow along with our community. And that is where it comes about just transition. So we would transit to a new world where the energy transition is happening, and we would take along with us the communities that are dependent on us and to whom we have an impact. The next is sustainable operations. And as we are transiting and as we are growing, we need to ensure that our operations are sustainable. And last is about the governance, that is work ethics. We will not compromise on our work ethics. So if you look at our, on the left-hand side, our sustainability strategy and focus areas. So, excuse me. Our sustainability strategy has the key elements which are displayed on the left-hand side, which talks about leadership, stakeholder engagement, communication, planning, improvement, monitoring, and reporting. So when we talk about these 7 elements, this is the basic structure on which the strategy is based upon. So we have the leadership, as I just explained some time back. The leadership gives the direction. Stakeholder engagement, we would consider the feedback from all our stakeholders as we prepare our strategy with respect to ESG. We have two-way communication where we listen to our stakeholders and also communicate back to them of all our initiatives. The third is, once we have the strategy in place, we follow the PDCA cycle, or the plan, do, check, act cycle, which is planning for improvement, actually executing the improvement, monitoring the performance, and then reporting it back, not only internally or to the board, but to the external world and all the stakeholders. On the right-hand side, what we have done is, while sustainability is a huge topic, so we have identified 17 key focus areas which we feel are important to us and to our stakeholders. And they have been classified under 3 buckets of environment, social, and governance. So under the environment, the key focus areas that has been identified is climate change, energy, resources, water resources, waste, wastewater, air emissions, biodiversity, sustainable mining, and supply chain sustainability. Under the bucket of social, we have indigenous people, cultural heritage, employee well-being, social sustainability, local considerations, and governance is business ethics and human rights. So when we look at these elements, the elements of framework, for each of these 17 areas, we have 17 focus areas. We have policies that gives the intention of the organization as a whole. So whatever I'm talking about, you can get it on the website of JSW. It's publicly available, so there's nothing that it's something that I cannot share with you. It's all displayed and given in our website. So for all of these 17 focus areas, we have the policies. And these policies typically give the intention and the direction and some of the commitments that we would follow on these 17 areas. The policies are supported by technical standards. When we talk about the technical standards, like for climate change, there is a standard. For energy, there is a standard. This is to help the operations or the site level team that what they should be doing in each of these focus areas, with a bit of guidance on how they should be achieving it. So the purpose of these technical standards is to have a consistent way of working across all our sites globally. And each standard gives what these sites need to do. In order to enable these technical standards to be implemented, there is a group of standards called management standard, because once we have the technical standards, which is focusing on each of these 17 elements, we need people to be trained to implement these standards. And that's where that is a management standard on training. We need people to become to identify objectives and targets with respect to each of these standards. So there is a management standard which will talk about the objectives, how to set up the objectives for each of these topics. Okay, so then there is a standard that once we have set the objectives, its implementation, its monitoring, and if there is an audit internal governance mechanism. So there is a management standard which will talk about auditing the progress of implementation of each of these standards, and if there are any deviations, how the plant are taking actions to correct themselves and get it back along the lines. So those are the way we have focused our framework. So this is the broad framework under which JSW as a group operates. And this is applicable not only for the steel business, but is applicable for all the group companies within the JSW umbrella. Now, if you look at, these are the commitments that we have given and with our targets, and these are available on our websites also. So what we have committed under ESG is, on the left-hand side, if you see, 42% emission reduction of with respect to CO2 from the base year of 2005 to be achieved by 2030. 39% reduction in water consumption by 2030 compared to base year of 2005. 100% waste recycling and reutilization. 19% reduction in energy consumption. That's for the steel integrated plants and across most of the businesses. And for the downstream processes, we would want, from the downstream processes, we have given that carbon neutrality at JSW Steel. Carbon neutrality at JSW Steel coated products. Renewable energy consumption with respect to 1,000 megawatt. Biodiversity, to achieve net loss of biodiversity. And looking at the environment related parameters of SOx, NOx, and particulate emission, we have kept specific targets which are much stringent than our environmental country environmental norms. From the social perspective, we have given a target for ourselves to have zero harm to life, nurturing a diverse and inclusive culture, empowering local communities, creating sustainable livelihoods, and adhering to human rights. I will go in detail in each of these elements and show you that what we are doing and how we are doing. The last one is on the governance. Diverse and involved competent board, highest levels of ethics and transparency, strict adherence to code of conduct, ensuring information security and cyber security, and robust corporate governance. So these are the commitments that we are sharing with our external stakeholders. And this is seen on our website, through our investor presentation, and in our sustainability report, which is the means of reporting to the external world. So we have also done materiality assessment. So what we did is, in 2020, we conducted a detailed stakeholder engagement. So we identified the key stakeholders like customers, employees, community, NGOs, government and regulatory bodies, institutions, industry bodies, investors, and suppliers. And from samples of each of these representation, we asked them that what is of what do they feel, which are the issues which they feel are important from the stakeholder perspective, as well as and we tried to map it on the right hand side. So if you see the first right hand quadrant, the issues which are important, and from that we have deducted that these are the material issues of which we have taken into consideration. And if you look, the ones that are highlighted in blue those are the ones, are the 17 focus areas that we had already identified. So this reconfirms or revalidates the fact that those 17 focus areas that we have identified are also the concerns or issues or importance that the stakeholders have stressed that we should be focusing on continuously, or should be focusing on continuously. So some of the initiatives that we have kind of taken at our factory is, if you look on the photograph on the right hand side, it's the world's largest pipe conveyor system, approximately 24 kilometers, for transporting iron ore from mines to the factory at Vijayanagar. So through this, we have reduced carbon footprint of about 3.86 kgs CO2 per ton of ore transported, in addition to the pollution, in addition to the transportation of vehicles which are passing through various villages and coming to the factory. So these are some of the initiatives. And at the mining, the first one which I've already described, the second one is rainwater harvesting systems, soil moisture conservation plans for biodiversity, waste disposal, and introduction of digital into the mining to increase efficiency, increase safety, and reducing waste. In the manufacturing plants, a lot of energy efficiency projects have been taken up to improve the waste performance and water management. Zero liquid discharge. We are trying to aim for a zero liquid discharge for all the locations. New technologies like Meros to maintain the emission controls under 10 milligrams per nm cube. 100% EF slag utilized to make paver blocks and bricks. Uh, One of the important one is plastic injection system for recycling 3 tons per day of plastic in the EF. So this is an interesting project that we have carried out internally with the help of our R&D. What we have done is we have tried to collect all the plastic waste that is generated within the factory and now within the township. And that plastic, instead of, and we all know how plastic waste is an issue across the globe. So we are using that plastic and recycling back into the electric arc furnace. And so we are kind of using it back into the system without sending it as a waste outside. Uh, Carbon capture and utilization is one of the technologies that we have embarked upon, and I'll share about a pilot plant that we are operating. On the product front, so while we are talking about processes and improvements in the process, there is also an initiative that we have taken up with respect to products. So we are trying to achieve that all our products should have environment product declaration. We have gone about for the product categories that are mentioned here. We have gone for certification or the Green Pro certification for one typical kind of product, that is JSW Neo Steel, which is from the CII in India. We are also working with CII in India to develop such kind of certification for steel sector in India. It's something like, I won't say like a 5-star rating or a 4-star rating for the electrical appliances, but it definitely will look at the processes that are being used, the properties of the product, and how environment and what is the impact of these products on the environment are displayed, so that the customers and consumers, when they buy these products, know it very clearly that what they're buying. So that's another way of reporting transparently about what is the impact of this product on environment. So when we talk about environment, we are looking at climate change, water security, waste management, air emissions, and biodiversity. So climate change, which is the talk of the town today, and everyone is discussing about climate change. So what we are kind of have done is we have taken a strategy to decarbonization related international collaboration through World Steel Climate Action membership. We have carried out a risk assessment and mitigation via the TCFD alignment, that is the Task Force on Financial Stability for disclosures. And we have an internal monitoring and planning by the climate action. Sorry. So the key interventions are listed where we are signatory to the TCFD improvement projects like creating carbon sinks, reducing coke utilization, some of the initiatives which are mentioned here. And if you look at the target that we have set is in 2018, we were at 2.59, and slowly our trajectory is on a pathway which is reducing, and by 2030 we would want to be 1.95. And this target that we have taken is in line with the International Energy Agency, where they have seen that if we take an ambitious scenario, that is they are calling a sustainable development scenario, in which it is expected that the sector would achieve a net zero by 2070. So that's practical for the steel sector. And in that direction, we have aligned our targets. And today, when we look at our Prime Minister's commitment at the COP26, he has also said that India would become net zero by 2070. So we have aligned our targets of carbon reductions in line with our country's commitment and to the International Energy Agency's projections for the steel sector. But to achieve that, what we need to do is we have kind of worked out into 3-phase manners. That is from now to 2030, what we need to do, from 2030 to 2050, what we need to do, and 2050 to 2070, what we need to do. So from now to 2030, we have identified these actions that would help us in achieving the target that we have set. This is basically improving the material efficiency, improvements in the conventional routes, stringent monitoring and planning, adoption of best available technologies, increased usage of scrap. And in the process, we also look at what are the technologies available for carbon capture, usage, and storage. And when we move from 2030 to 2050, we would see scaled deployment of the CCUS, that is the carbon capture, usage, and storage, and usage of hydrogen into the system for reduction of fire. So that doesn't mean that we would just start doing it from 2030. If the technology becomes viable, economically viable, we may start using it at the earliest available opportunity. And finally, beyond 2050 and 27, between 2050 and 70, we would like to carry out technology improvements or research and development in the direction of direct electrolysis of iron ore and development of green cover to act as carbon sink. So this is where I was talking about. So this is, we are talking about a project about carbon capture, which we have implemented at JSW Salav Works, which helps us absorb about 85 to 95% of CO2 emissions from the source. The CO2 that is captured has a purity of around 99.5%, and this is sent to the beverage industry for their usage. So that's a small plant that we have installed, and we are seeing this working very actively, and we would want to see how this can be scaled up at our different factories. On the other side, we have started collaboration with leaders like Royal Dutch Shell and Larsen and Toubro to evaluate projects on energy efficiency and technologies. JSW Steel is a member of India Hydrogen Alliance, and we are trying to kind of scope up a hydrogen-based pilot project at Vijayanagar. Energy, I think we have already discussed here. I mean, the one point of which I would like to focus here is, as part of Bureau of Energy Efficiency, we have the scheme of PAT, which is Perform, Achieve, and Trade. So all our steel plants are complying and transitioning to renewable energy. So the key intervention is installation of waste gas recovery and waste gas recirculation system, participation in the Step Up program, which is a unique program initiated by the World Steel. What it has done is it has collected all the data and have kind of benchmarked process by process in terms of energy efficiency of each process and given us the feedback that where we need to improve. So we are trying to prepare a roadmap and see all these improvements can carried out within our operations. Water. So resolving water stress with efficient water management. So we are trying to adopt digitalization for better water control, increase utilization of recycled water, installation of technology for reduction of freshwater and rainwater harvesting. And on the right-hand side, that's how is our projection. There's a performance from 2005 to FY 2021, and where we want to achieve by FY 30. Similarly, wastewater, maintaining zero liquid discharge, and some of the initiatives that we have taken, which has reduced our wastewater consumption, wastewater generation from what is given in the figure in FY 19 to FY 2021. So usage of recycled water from STBs for the process, zero wastewater generation across mines, and utilization of wastewater in place of groundwater. So indirectly, we are trying to see that how we can reduce the freshwater consumption and try to utilize all the wastewater that is generated through treatment. Waste. embracing circularity, like we are committed to achieving 100% recycling of all waste generated from our operations. So some of the initiatives that we have done is utilization of sludge and fines back in the process. So if you look at the steel sector, the biggest waste generated is through slag. And this slag is utilized by our group company, that is JSW Cement, so in their clinkerization process. So we are sending all our slag generated to the cement industry, which in turn is a kind of a circularity movement which we have initiated. I've already spoken about usage of plastic waste in electric arc furnace. We are trying to utilize the steel slag in paver blocks. Also, we are trying to see how this slag can be used as a replacement of river sand, and exploring many more such usages. Air emissions. We are trying to go beyond compliance, and for that we have identified specific technologies which would help us achieve the 2030 targets. And the interventions that we have seen is kind of adoption of best available technology, that is the Supreco technology, and the CDQ, that is coke drying quenching in the coke plants, which will have impact on the emissions, and installation of MEROS to treat the process gases. Biodiversity. So one of the key target that we have taken is no net loss of biodiversity at all our operating sites by 2030. And in doing so, what we have started doing is trying to assess what is the risk or an assessment of risk at each of the sites. Based on that, making and implementing a biodiversity management plan and creating carbon sinks. And in doing so, we are collaborating with governments and forest departments. On the right-hand side, there is an example where Dolvi, which is in Maharashtra, we have the mangrove restoration program, and we have planted about 1.23 million mangroves in the land of about 240 hectares. And this was all with the help of community engagement. Also, we have the fostering a biodiversity-rich ecosystem at JSW Mines, where we have improved the green belt and used the famous Miyawaki plantation method to achieve the high vegetation density. Now coming back to the social part, which is talking about health and safety, people development, community development, and supply chain engagement. Safety is of prime importance, and it's one of the core values of the group. And if you look at the key structure of safety that we have, is with the vision of zero harm, we have health and safety policy and goals. Again, with respect to safety, there are standards and best practices that are available. The key point that we hear on the right-hand side, if you see, about 15 to 20% weightage of employee compensation is attributed to safety, which means if there is any incident happening in our factory, the employees, including the senior leadership, will lose 15% of their compensation. So this is how safety is being taken seriously within the group. And we have the Group Safety Council, which is chaired by the Managing Director himself, attended by all the business CEOs and the group HUDs, where they meet every quarter. We have business level steering committee, and then we have the plant level committee, below which there are subcommittees on key focus areas which are of concern with respect to safety. People engagement. So what we have done is, so we have been certified as a great place to work. We have recently launched performance-linked ESOP program for all the employees, wherein about 90% of our workforce has been covered. And on the right-hand side are the few statistics about the number of employees, employees on contract, employees under the age of 30, what is the average training per employee per annum, what is the attrition rate, how many employees have received regular performance and feedback on their career development, and total training hours. So when you're looking at all these numbers and the facts that are being presented, it's a type of reporting that we are doing to the external world. Community development. So through our JSW Foundation, we have key intervention focus for our community. So our intervention focus are in the field of health and nutrition, agriculture, water, environment and sanitation, education, waste management, skill development, art, culture and heritage, and sports. And if you look at, we have till date covered, or we have touched upon about million people, about 0.6 million beneficiaries of community initiatives, direct and indirect. Around 65 crores spent on CSR in a single year of FY 2021. 136 students have been benefited through interventions. 2,400 students have been supported through the JSW Udan Scholarship for pursuing higher education. And 255 villages have been impacted through our initiatives in 4 states. So these are some of the examples of health and nutrition, what we have done on the left-hand side. Then there are examples of water, environment and sanitation. We have tried to harvest about 1 million cubic meters of water in areas so that water can be stored and used by the community. Again, waste management. What we have mentioned is we have used, with the help of households, segregating the waste and putting it back into the system based on the example that I shared earlier. Art, culture and heritage is another key focus area. So there's an initiative to kind of preserve, to carry out long-term preservation and restoration of art centers and historical experiences and places in India. And Hampi is one of the sites which has been restored using advanced technology. The synagogue in Mumbai has been restored in Mumbai by the SW Group. Similarly, recently we have kind of, if you have seen the news, the Kedarnath temple has been kind of restored with the help of JSW Group, which was inaugurated by the Prime Minister. I do see a few hands up. So I will just quickly finish my presentation in another 5 minutes, and then we can have a discussion and any question answer sessions, please, if that is okay with you. Then there are initiatives in agriculture, education, that's available in skill development, in sports. So there's a big Indian Institute of Sports that has been set up in Bangalore, and which provides training to all the participants who go for the Olympics. Also, the face on the right hand side is well known, Mr. Chopra, who was trained at this institute before he went to the Olympics. Supply chain is another key focus area because they are directly one of the key stakeholders in our system. So what we have done is we have introduced the supplier code of conduct, which says that each and every supplier who works with JSW has to kind of have an obligation to meet the compliance management with respect to statutory compliance, notices, tax evasions. They have to kind of have processes which would have minimum impact on environment, human rights, labor, and business ethics. So we have tried to see that now this is an area which we are still working. We have issued the supplier code of conduct, and we have kind of given this code of conduct to all our employees, to all our suppliers. Governance, I have already spoken, but some of the things that I would want to speak here. This is our entire board. The earlier board that I had presented was specific to the sustainable committee, but when we talk about the board for the group, it is this board who kind of are involved in the strategic generation, and these are independent directors who are from various important dignitaries. You have Mr. Harsh Mariwala from Marico, chairman, who is part of our board. We have India's Ministry of Foreign External Affairs, Mrs. Nirupama Rao, who is part of our board committee. And these members are part of different committees that we have at the board. So we have about 10 to 11 committees that are present, and there is an audit committee, nomination and remuneration committee, risk management committee, and all these members are part of each or one or at least one of these committees. So these are the qualifications of the board, their competency, what's their background, and how they have been kind of evaluated to see that they not only they contribute in a meaningful manner with their experience that they have in various sectors. And this is another requirement of reporting, that whether the board is qualified to kind of lead a group or provide strategic direction. And this is one of the requirement which has come recently as part of our SEBI guidelines of NG, National Guidelines on Responsible Business Conduct. The other governance initiatives that we have is, we have Ethics and Integrity Committee, grievance redressal mechanism, access to capital, transparent reporting, climate governance, and human rights. So if you look at our ESG reporting, so whatever I mentioned in the last half an hour, 40 minutes, is whatever initiatives that we are doing every year, we are reporting it externally through a framework or using a framework called IIRC, International Framework, as well as the GRI standard and the UN SDGs. All these reports with the data, everything is assured or audited by third party to ensure that the data that is reported are accurate and consistent, subject to which, after which it gets disclosed to the external stakeholders and are presented on our website. Last but not the least, the focus on digital, which is increasing a lot in our organization. So this particular year, the two focus areas for FY 22-23 is digital and ESG. And we are using digital to bring in efficiency across all the processes, including ESG. And these are some of the projects that has been planned for digital implementation across the group. I think this I've already mentioned, that finally, once we have done this, what has been the outcome? So we have kind of been nominated as a World Steel Championship, World Sustainability Championship for champions for last 3 years. We are globally recognized for our disclosure and reporting practices. We are again recognized in CSR and sustainability by Asian Center for Corporate Governance and Sustainability. We did win the Golden Peacock Award for Sustainability in 2020 by Institute of Directors. The JSW Vijayanagar and the Salem got Excellence Deming Award in TQM. Last year, we had the Steely Award for Excellence in Life Cycle Assessment category and Excellence in Digital Communications. We have been included in the S&P Global Index and in the DJSI, which I spoke earlier. Right. These are some of the key membership where we participate. So it's through collaboration, for the purpose of collaboration and advocacy. We also participate in international and national forums, and this. On the left-hand side, we are members to World Steel Association, WBCSD, GRI, UNGC, Iron and Steel Manufacturing Association, American Society for Metals Association, Iron Steel, Iron Steel Institute of Japan, and Metal Society of US. And on the right-hand side, we are members of CII, FICCI, ASSOCHAM, to name a few. Right. So I think that was all from my side. We can now kind of have a discussion on yeah. Any questions or anything we can
there are a few questions,
right,
which have been asked by some of the participants, like what are the critical risks identified at TCFD?
Right. So when we look at the types of risk, that is physical risk and the transition risk. So when just to give a context about people who may not have the idea about this, but just to give a brief context, physical risk are the risks which are impacting the sites directly. And from that perspective, what we have identified is all our plants which are located in the coastal areas, they have this physical risk of flooding or water inundation. That's one. There's a plant which is in Maharashtra, Nagpur, where we see water availability or water scarcity could be a risk, and the other plants on the coastal plants which I've talked about, flooding, water inundation, as well as cyclonic risk. So these are the physical risks that have been identified for the plants situated in the coastal areas. From the transition risk, which will affect the organization as a whole in terms of political, legislative reputation. The first is we have identified the carbon border mechanism, the CBAM, which is being planned to be introduced by the EU sometime in 26 onwards. So which will be a disadvantage to not only us, but many of the hard to abate sectors like steel and cement who are exporting to the EU countries. The other is technology, which is one of the transition risks, that if we are not agile in adopting the technology, we may we will be left behind. So these are the high level risk, the key risk, I would say. There are other risks, but these are the main ones that I have just spoken about.
So one question is like, is there any environmental training have been provided to the employees for sustainability, etc. activities?
Environmental
training.
Yeah. So there's a lot of trainings that are being talked about. So different forums are set. So one is, so I'll talk about awareness and training both. So when we talk about awareness and training, so every month on the first week, that is first Saturday of every month, we have 1 hour session on sustainability. And this has been continuing. So where we have representations, it's like a call that we are having now. It's a 1 hour session on different topics of environment, of sustainability, which is being shared by respective plants of the best practices with respect to environment that they are doing. That's one way. The second is all the policies that we have issued. So these policies are being, so each employee has to have, there's a mandatory requirement that all the employees have gone through these policies and given their acknowledgement for these policies. And now going from macro level to micro level, we are issuing these standards, and these standards are being seen as that these standards will become the means for future training programs starting this month onwards.
So one question I've been asked, like, I see that the ESG reporting of JSW is quite comprehensive. How much of an interdepartmental cooperation and synchrony and know-how about the sustainability exists? It is asking about the interdepartmental cooperation between among the departments.
Okay, so I think I'll tell you that this has been a journey for us. It's not that we have achieved, we just said start and it has got started. So it has taken us at least 2 years to reach where we are today. And when we are talking about, when we talk about interdepartment synchronization, there is a climate action group which on a monthly basis reviews the performance. So when this performance is reviewed, it is the departments, the energy, the utility, the environment, the operations, and this group is a representation of various functions who come and present their performance. And energy is not that it's a domain of any one department. There is an interlinkages. Similarly, raw material, there is an interlinkages between each department. So every month, all these groups present their performance and the issues, if there are any, that gets sorted out. And today, ESG has been a mantra where every department is continuously talking to each other at the shop floor about whether the quality of raw material, whether the input or the CO2 emissions, or to the utilities, or to the mechanical departments of a particular air pollution equipment not working, which is having an impact. So that synergy is now there within the organization, but it has taken us time to reach where we are. And still, I won't say it is perfect. We still have miles to go before we kind of reach a certain level of maturity.
So few of the hands have been raised, like Palki Sharma,
Yeah.
Bhavna, and Shahid. If you have any query, you may ask.
Thank you, Mr. Swarup. This is Shahid here. Mining, of course, I mean, generally, if you say mining, it's always a bad word and all the NGOs will pounce on you. My question is, what happens to physically? I mean, now that we have seen so much of data that you have portrayed, physically, when you complete the mining in an area, what do you actually do with that? I mean, is there a system in place to ensure that, you do something? Like, for example, we have physically seen a lot of things in the Kudremukh area, which of course was stopped due to litigation and all that stuff. The kind of a regenerative environment that comes about, the regeneration is so phenomenal that today Kudremukh actually has changed, after the stoppage of the company there. So my question is very clear. What happens once the mining is done? Thank you.
So let me start by saying that JSW has started acquiring the mines maybe for last 3 to 4 years onwards, and we are working primarily on the iron ore mines that we have started procuring. And to begin with, if you look at the life cycle of a mine, right from the point where we have been leased with an operational mine or a new mine. So currently, most of the plants that we have acquired are operational. So parallelly, we have started building mine closure plans. So where we have not yet reached a stage where we have shut down a particular mine, but we have started working on creating a mine closure plan, meeting the norms of not only the Indian government, but the best practices such as ICMM. We are trying to integrate the ICMM framework into our mining operations, and you see, sustainable mining has been one of the key focus areas in the 17 focus areas that I've showed. And we have created a technical standard where it is mandatory for all the mining operations to follow that standard. And mine closure is one of the key requirements. Mine closure, right from the day one, you have to start planning. It's not that after you close the mine, you start for a mine closure. So your mine closure planning starts from day one when your mine starts operating. So to that effect, we are working towards that. And some of the initiatives which I've shown about water harvesting or creating a green area in and across the mines that we are concurrently doing as the mine is I won't say, I'm not saying reaching the end, but as it is progressing, as the operations are progressing.
Rashmi ma'am?
See, and one of the examples that I gave was the conveyor, the 24-kilometer conveyor for transporting the iron ore from mines to the factory. So that's the physical change. So we have completely avoided the to and fro of vehicles loading, unloading, and passing through that 25 kilometers distance of getting the iron ore from the mines to the factory. So such kinds of initiatives are being worked upon.
So one question from my side. Actually, like at this point of time, when we are talking about this ESG reporting, we have many frameworks which are available. Like GRI we have, SASB we have. So, and in India, we do have our business responsibility and sustainability reporting framework. So JSW follows which one?
To begin with, the first we have to follow the SEBI guidelines because that's a mandatory for us. The rest are voluntary. So if you look at GRI, SASB are all voluntary, but the SEBI one is mandatory. I think that's the first one that we have to report it. The secondly, if you look at whether it is GRI or SASB or IARC, there is a lot of synergy between each of these. And if you look at that level also, there is a foundation that is formed, that is Value Report Foundation, VRF, where the SASB and IIRC, they have joined and coming out with a common standard. So there is an integration happening at the standards level itself to kind of facilitate the integration of various requirements of these standards. But currently we are following IIRC and GRI. But going ahead, we may soon transit to the standard that would come out from Value Report Foundation, which is a collaboration between the IIRC, SASB, and I think GRI also. So once these things merge, we would have only one standard globally.
Thank you, sir.
One question from my side. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, Dr. Mayank.
Sir, during the course of the PPT, I got an opportunity to see one slide on the digital initiatives of ESG reporting.
Yeah.
So, sir, could you enlighten us more on what all digital initiatives JSW specifically is taking as far as this ESG reporting is concerned?
The first one that we have now embarked, this project is currently underway, is so whatever data that we have shown you on the ESG, the existing system is straightforward Excel based, and the calculations are Excel based. All the CO2, GHG, it's all formula and calculations which are Excel based. So the first step that we are trying to do is shift away from Excel to a system called SOFI system, a cloud-based system developed by a company called Sphera, which is underway, where each department will start putting the data and will have a real-time performance monitoring of each department, which will enable us to take informed decisions at a faster time rather than waiting for the end of the month. After 30 days, okay, we have deviated, so next month we won't deviate again. So that's the first step which we have embarked on, and that project is being implemented across all. So all the ESG data that we have seen, primarily focusing on CO2 energy, would be through this system.
Thank you, sir.
Hello, good morning, sir.
Yeah, please.
Sir, actually, I don't have a query, but I have a request. I'm a research scholar from Banaras Hindu University, and I'm working on ESG disclosures. And as a part of my study, I need to collect data from the people who are involved in the process of publishing these ESG disclosures or creating these initiatives. Sir, if possible, could you share your email ID or can share any way to connect you so that I can contact you for my data collection? Actually, I've just initiated the work, but in the later part of my study, I'll be needing that.
Absolutely. I think, Mahendra ji, do you have my email ID which can be circulated, or I can just put it in the... I'm just putting it in the chat box.
Sure, sir.
Yeah, I'm just
I will
putting
circulate and
chat
put it
box.
so that, yes,
Yeah.
just.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah, I've just put it in the chat box.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for your valuable time. I'm extremely sorry for last minute call to you.
No worries. I'm also extremely sorry for the technical glitches and hitches that we all had to face today in the morning.
Now I would like to call Professor Mayank to say the vote of thanks, please.
Oh, thank you, Professor Manvendra, for providing me this opportunity to deliver the vote of thanks. But before moving further, I would like to just share one shlok and like to connect it with sustainability. Kanya varete rupam mata, vitam pita shrutam bandhava, kulam michanti mishtanan mirta janaha. So what does it mean? So at the time of marriage, the girl wants a beautiful husband. His mother wants a good son-in-law. His father wants a knowledgeable son-in-law. And his brother wants a good family relationship. But all others want a good food. So the idea behind saying is that we all as individuals in the society wants clean air, clean water, clean environment, and trees. But the biggest thing is that someone else will do for us. And I'm quite sure with the insights shared by Sir, how this can be achieved, how sustainability and how this can be achieved and how this will help with the help of this ESG reporting is definitely going to achieve this goal to have, a good sustainable society. So with this, I would like to start my vote of thanks. So Honorable Swaroop Banerjee, sir, VP Corporate Sustainability, JSW, Professor C.K. Sahuji, Director in Charge and Dean Faculty Welfare, NIT Rourkela, Professor Manvendra Pratap Singh, Coordinator of this FDP on Sustainable Business Ecosystem ESG Reporting, our most valued invited guest participants from academics and industry. So it's my privilege to have been asked to propose this vote of thanks on this occasion. So I, on behalf of the entire Department of School of Management, NIT Rourkela, and entire organization team, thank first of all our chief guest, Mr. Swaroop Banerjee, who provided us valuable insights. I mean, how ESG along with profit and how organization can not only be profitable but can also be sustainable, and also sharing insights on sustainability across the value chain. So thank you very much for enlightening us with your words. I would also like to thank our Honorable Dean Faculty Welfare, Professor C.K. Sahu, for sharing his valuable insights on how sustainability can be achieved in the organization and how it can be seen with the help of the internal environment in the external environment. Thank you very much, sir. I would also like to thank our head of the department, Professor Rajiv Kumar Panda, for not only helping us and guiding us to organize this FDP on sustainable business ecosystem and ESG reporting. I would like to thank our SRIC office team, who was very helpful in processing the entire paperwork to organize this FDP. And a big thank to AICTE Training and Learning Academy for sponsoring this workshop on sustainable business ecosystem. Without them, especially in this tough times of COVID-19, it would not have been possible. Thank you very much, AICTE Atal Academy. And I would also like to thank our coordinator, Professor Manvendra Pratap Singh, for creating, developing this idea of conducting two FDPs in series. One is the basic version, another is the advanced version on sustainable business ecosystem. And I'm sure everyone is going to benefit from it a lot. I would also like to thank our research scholar team, Alka Kumari and Rajata Kukreti, for giving us the backend support to conduct this FDP. And last but not the least, I would like to thank each and everyone who supported us from NIT Rourkela and our guests and speakers who gave their valuable consent and time to share their valuable insights in this FDP. So, and lastly, I would like to say, if still anyone is left, I would like to thank on behalf of the entire department and my coordinator, Professor Singh. So thank you very much for being the part of this FDP. And I'm quite sure this FDP is going to be a very enriching experience for each one of us, and hope you all will learn a great experience and you all will learn a good practices about how this ESG reporting is done and how it can be done. Thank you very much.